country for a couple of months, and as much as I really feel guilty that I'm not back at home in New York protesting the things that have rolled out over the last week to 10 days from the Trump administration, I also feel like there's important work to be done in other parts of the world, so that's what I'm doing now. But this morning I got an alert in my email that a new website, a new webpage had been created about me. So I looked it up, and it was part of Grokipedia, which is a Wikipedia kind of like site created by Elon Musk's Grok AI system. So I thought, what do they have to say about me? Well, it's actually quite thorough. It talks about a lot of my work, my scholarship in gender and sexuality law and the racial history of the United States, but then it does so critically. It takes the view that a lot of my work kind of engaged a sort of woke DEI sort of perspective, which, it's a little hard to do gender and sexuality and critical race theory in a way that avoids the kinds of things that might get organized under DEI. And then I kept reading, and there was a very long section about my Palestinian solidarity work, both on campus and more largely. It is biased. It is incomplete, it is inaccurate, and it definitely takes a position that is consonant with the conservative Zionist and otherwise views of Elon Musk. So I thought, well, who else might be on this Grokipedia? So I looked up some of my other colleagues from Columbia who are renowned scholars, but who also happen to have engaged in either scholarship or advocacy on behalf of Palestinians, and they too have websites that recognize their notoriety, or pages that recognize their notoriety, but do so in ways that I think make ad hominem attacks against their scholarship and their professional careers, just like it did on my page. So then I thought, well, let me look up one of my really Zionist colleagues and see how that reads, one of my more conservative colleagues. So I picked somebody, Josh Mitz, who's on the law faculty. He does kind of law and economic modeling of markets and securities. He's run into some trouble, had a hard time getting tenure, and then later published a piece right after October 7th in which he said there were people who knew about it and shorted certain stocks and made a ton of money, but it turns out he made a mathematical mistake, put the decimal point in the wrong place. Almost none of that is treated, if at all, certainly with the critical attention that my work, which I will say does not contain mistakes, was given on my Grokipedia page. Also remarkably, there's no mention of Josh's role on campus and in the US more generally as being an ardent advocate and defender of Zionism, which is fine, people can do that, but he's also played a pretty destructive role on our campus at Columbia, but no mention of that as one of the things under the tab controversies. So clearly Grokipedia, just like Grok and Elon Musk's political projects more generally, reflects a kind of political bias with a set of inaccuracies that are worth paying attention to. Look and see if you're there as well. There isn't an obvious way in which you can register a concern or complaint or correction with Grokipedia. But what it does teach us is that we have to keep an eye on this stuff and make sure that we, our students, journalists, politicians, and others don't rely on these new AI-generated research or other kinds of resources. Because they have baked into their algorithms certain political biases. Humans do too, but we do check each other in ways that I think it makes it more difficult with AI. So this is today's kind of little weird news from this morning. Hope you're hanging in there.